Welcome to this detailed summary of macroeconomics by Olivier Blanchard. This book is one of the most widely used texts for understanding macroeconomic theory and its real-world applications. Blanchard dives into the complexities of national economies, focusing on key concepts like economic growth, unemployment, inflation, and fiscal policy. Whether you're a student or just someone interested in understanding how large-scale economies function, this summary will break down the essential ideas in a clear and easy-to-understand way. Let's get started. Olivier Blanchard's Macroeconomics serves as a comprehensive guide to understanding the forces that drive national economies. Blanchard begins by introducing the foundational principles of macroeconomics and setting the stage for a deeper dive into how economies function on a larger scale. The book aims to provide readers with the tools to understand not only the key economic indicators like GDP, unemployment rates, and inflation but also the theories that explain how these elements interact in a broader economy. Blanchard's approach blends theory with practical application, emphasizing the importance of understanding the real-world implications of economic models. The book starts by defining macroeconomics as the study of the economy as a whole, rather than focusing on individual markets or firms. This includes understanding the overall production, employment, inflation, and international trade patterns within a country. Blanchard stresses the interconnectedness of these elements, where changes in one sector can have widespread effects throughout the economy. This foundational idea sets the stage for discussions on national output, the factors that influence it, and the role of economic policy in stabilizing the economy. Blanchard then transitions into a detailed explanation of national output, or gross domestic product, GDP, which is one of the most crucial indicators in macroeconomics. He describes how GDP measures the total market value of all final goods and services produced within a country in a given time period. Blanchard emphasizes the different approaches to calculating GDP, such as the expenditure approach, the income approach, and the production approach, and how each method contributes to understanding the overall economic activity. GDP growth is a key focus because it reflects the health of the economy, and Blanchard examines the factors that influence growth, including investment, consumption, government spending, and exports. One of the core concepts in Blanchard's book is the relationship between aggregate demand and aggregate supply. He explains how aggregate demand, the total demand for goods and services in the economy, interacts with aggregate supply, or the total output of goods and services. Blanchard highlights the short-run and long-run effects of changes in these variables. For instance, in the short run, fluctuations in aggregate demand can lead to changes in output and employment, while in the long run, the economy tends to settle into a state of full employment, determined by the supply-side factors like technology and labor. This distinction between short-run and long-run dynamics is crucial to understanding how economic policies can influence the economy at different points in time. Another significant area of focus in the book is the labor market. Blanchard explores the relationship between unemployment and inflation, known as the Phillips curve. He discusses how these two factors are often inversely related, especially in the short run, meaning that as unemployment falls, inflation tends to rise, and vice versa. Blanchard provides insight into the causes of unemployment, distinguishing between cyclical unemployment, which is related to economic downturns, and structural unemployment, which is due to mismatches between the skills of workers and the needs of employers. He also looks at the role of labor market policies, such as minimum wages and unemployment benefits, and how they can affect the natural rate of unemployment in an economy. Inflation is another critical topic in Blanchard's book. He explains the different theories of inflation, with a particular emphasis on demand-pull inflation, caused by an increase in aggregate demand, and cost-push inflation, caused by an increase in the costs of production. Blanchard goes on to discuss the role of central banks, particularly the Federal Reserve, in managing inflation through monetary policy. He describes how central banks use tools like interest rates and open market operations to influence the money supply and control inflation. Blanchard underscores the importance of keeping inflation under control, as high inflation can erode purchasing power and destabilize the economy, while deflation can lead to stagnation and increased debt burdens. Blanchard also explores the role of fiscal policy in macroeconomic management. He explains how governments use taxation and public spending to influence aggregate demand and stabilize the economy. For example, during a recession, governments may increase spending or cut taxes to stimulate demand, while in periods of high inflation, they may reduce spending or increase taxes to cool down the economy. Blanchard also discusses the concept of the fiscal deficit, the government's borrowing, and the implications of high public debt. He points out that while borrowing can help finance growth and development, excessive debt can undermine economic stability if it leads to unsustainable interest payments or a loss of investor confidence. Another key aspect of the book is its discussion of the international economy and trade. Blanchard explains how the open economy framework introduces new factors to consider, such as exchange rates, trade balances, and capital flows. He discusses the concepts of exports, imports, and the balance of payments, and how these elements interact to affect the health of the economy. He also explores the challenges that arise from international trade, such as the potential for trade imbalances, currency fluctuations, and the impact of foreign exchange rates on domestic economic conditions. Blanchard stresses the importance of understanding the global context in which national economies operate, as events in one part of the world can ripple through the global financial system. In addition to analyzing short-term economic fluctuations, Blanchard discusses the long-term drivers of economic growth. He covers the role of capital accumulation, technological progress, and human capital development in fostering sustained growth. Blanchard explains that for an economy to experience long-term prosperity, it must focus on improving productivity through innovation and investment in education and infrastructure. The book highlights the importance of policies that encourage innovation and efficiency, as well as the role of institutions in supporting economic growth. The book also delves into the role of expectations in macroeconomics. Blanchard discusses how expectations about the future, whether related to inflation, economic growth, or fiscal policies, can influence current economic behavior. He introduces the concept of rational expectations, which suggests that people make decisions based on the information available to them, and how these expectations can impact the effectiveness of policy measures. For example, if people expect inflation to rise in the future, they may demand higher wages or adjust their spending behavior, which in turn can contribute to inflationary pressures. Blanchard provides insight into the tools and methods that policymakers use to forecast and analyze the economy. He discusses the role of econometric models, which are used to predict future economic trends based on historical data and assumptions about economic behavior. While Blanchard acknowledges the limitations of these models, particularly in times of economic uncertainty or crisis, he emphasizes their importance in guiding policy decisions. He also stresses the need for policymakers to remain flexible and responsive to changing economic conditions, as economic forecasts are often subject to revision. Towards the end of the book, Blanchard discusses the challenges and risks that modern economies face, including financial crises, climate change, and income inequality. He explains that while economic growth can lead to prosperity, it can also exacerbate inequality if the benefits of growth are not evenly distributed. Blanchard advocates for policies that promote inclusivity and ensure that the benefits of growth reach all sectors of society. He also explores the growing importance of addressing environmental sustainability, noting that economic growth should be pursued in a way that does not deplete natural resources or harm the environment. Finally, Blanchard emphasizes the importance of a well-functioning global economy. He concludes by discussing the need for international cooperation in addressing issues like trade imbalances, global poverty, and financial instability. He suggests that globalization has brought both opportunities and challenges, and that economies must adapt to a rapidly changing world in order to thrive. The book finishes by reminding readers that macroeconomics is not just about numbers, it's about understanding the complex interactions that shape our world and how we can use economic tools to improve the lives of people everywhere. In summary, Macroeconomics by Olivier Blanchard provides an in-depth and accessible explanation of the core concepts and theories of macroeconomics. From national output and employment to inflation, fiscal policy, and international trade, Blanchard covers the essential topics that define how economies function on a larger scale. By blending theory with practical application, Blanchard provides readers with the tools to understand the forces that drive economic activity and the policies that shape economic outcomes.